The Young and the Restless spoilers. Victor and Jack join forces, but Kane refuses to be counted out. The Young and the Restless spoilers document that Victor Newman, Eric Braden, was just rejected by Kane Ashby, Billy Flynn. Get updates on the latest news about The Young and the Restless straight to your inbox. We use your personal data for interest-based advertising, as outlined in our privacy notice. What is this? Jack Abbott, Peter Bergman, will use that to his advantage and potentially ally with his longtime nemesis, whom he famously branded the Mustache, Michael Baldwin's Christian LeBlanc. Insertion of himself into this growing battle adds to the intrigue and potential off-ramps. His firing by Kane will offer Lauren Fenmore Baldwin, Tracy Bregman, momentary relief, with fans knowing that Michael is also working with Victor. Kane's confidence in all areas implies that Arabesque does possess an artificial intelligence tool that can disrupt and dismantle any company in the world, with Genoa City, Wisconsin's legacy businesses being his target. Is the artificial intelligence plotline believable? Yes, this is a believable plot line in today's world. However, more specifically, let's consider whether Newman Enterprises and Jabot's downfalls, for starters, wouldn't raise legal flags. What would Victor and Jack do if their long-standing businesses were suddenly toppled and no digital evidence existed to prove those crimes? What is this? Most importantly, they would have multiple witnesses who heard Kane state that he planned to use that machine-based weapon to go after those companies. That alone wouldn't mean he would be prosecuted, but surely a federal investigation would commence. Victor and Jack's connections would allow them to access whatever levers of power and fight back. Plus, Kane would be banking on none of his chosen allies, even those that departed, having recorded what he said or obtained some type of damaging documents. Amanda Sinclair Hale Morgan would be the one person who could turn against Kane or simply believe she was stopping him from carrying out an ill-advised effort. Victor Newman and Jack Abbott should get together. Victor and Jack are natural enemies. Jack's the underdog, who's lost far more often than he's won. Like Victor repeats endlessly, Jack did inherit Jabot and didn't build it from the ground up, as is true of Newman Enterprises. Victor might not have realized that tipped Kane off to what she really thought of him, because Flynn's character inherited the wealth from his late father, Colin Atkinson, Tristan Rogers, to found Arabesque and pursue the GC takeover plan. However, both men are being threatened simultaneously. But the audience has to wonder why Kane would allow so much of his takeover plan to be known. Could it be that Kane has been coercing so many counters that have been made during the gathering at his villa in the south of France, and since, which includes anticipating that these two enemies would forge a needed alliance? What is this? Kane Ashby's heart can be changed. Lily Winters, Crystal Khalil. Yes, she is a two-word sentence that answers the subject header and what looms over the heads of many in this city. Kane desperately wants to reconcile with her and their children as well. So, Lily holds the power to stop his plan if she offers real hope that getting back together is a reasonable expectation. She wouldn't have to remarry him immediately. Just offering an opening to her heart, which appears to already be there, could prevent what would be an irreversible set of takedowns. Lily is the love of Kane's life. If he is still hers, then there is a chance that love prevents war on Y&R. The Young and the Restless spoilers. Victor and Jack join forces, but Kane refuses to be counted out. In Genoa City, power shifts, unlikely alliances, and unrelenting ambition are the fabric of daily life. And this week, The Young and the Restless teases one of the most jaw-dropping twists in years. Fans are bracing themselves as two bitter rivals, Victor Newman and Jack Abbott, are forced to put their decade of animosity aside and forge an alliance that could reshape the future of both Newman Enterprises and Jabot. For years, their rivalry has been the heartbeat of the show, a battle of wills between two titans determined to outmaneuver the other. But in a shocking development, Victor and Jack find themselves staring at a threat so dangerous, so disruptive, that neither man can take it down alone. Yet as the men prepare to combine their strength, they fail to realize that a ghost in the past, Kane Ashby, is waiting in the wings, and he is determined to rewrite his own destiny, refusing to be silenced or overlooked. For longtime viewers, the image of Victor and Jack sitting across from one another, not as enemies but as strategic partners, is nothing short of surreal. Victor, known as the ruthless patriarch who bends even his own family to his will, has always viewed Jack as an unworthy adversary. Jack, on the other hand, has made a career out of proving that he can stand toe-to-toe with the formidable Newman. Their clashes have been legendary, from boardroom showdowns to personal betrayals that cut deep into their families' lives. But spoilers reveal that a new business threat, a shadowy investment firm with ties to international markets, has targeted both Newman Enterprises and Jabot, threatening to dismantle years of legacy and fortune. Faced with the reality that their companies could be swallowed whole, Victor makes the unthinkable call to Jack, and Jack, against every instinct, listens. This truce is not about friendship, nor is it about reconciliation. It is about survival. Victor, as always, wants control of the narrative, but Jack sees an opportunity to leverage Victor's iron will and limitless resources to shield Jabot from an aggressive takeover. As the two men sit down for their first strategy session, the tension is electric. They do not trust each other, nor do they pretend to, but both recognize that in this high-stakes game, their common enemy is more dangerous than their personal vendetta. For Jack, the move is risky. Aligning with Victor could alienate allies who have stood with him through thick and thin. For Victor, it is distasteful, but his instinct tells him that no one fights harder than Jack Abbott when his family is threatened. Together, they form an alliance of necessity, one that could shift the entire balance of Genoa City's power structure. But while Victor and Jack prepare to fight for their empires, they are not the only players entering the field. Kane Ashby, a man who has walked through fire more times than most, is back, and he has a score to settle. Spoilers tease that Kane, long dismissed as a secondary figure in the corporate chess games of Genoa City, is done being sidelined. Once a powerful executive at Chancellor Industries and a man who tasted both success and scandal, Kane knows what it means to lose everything. His reputation has been stained by deception, betrayal, and personal missteps. But beneath the shadows of his past lies a fierce determination to prove himself again. He refuses to be erased, and he is ready to insert himself into the very war that Victor and Jack think they can control. Kane's return to the boardroom drama comes at a time when Jill Abbott is reasserting herself in Chance of Winners, and Lily is struggling to balance her personal life with professional chaos. Spoilers hint that Kane will exploit every opportunity, using his connection to Jill and his complicated history with Lily, to carve a path back into the center of Genoa City power. But what makes Kane particularly dangerous is his unpredictability. While Victor and Jack fight with brute force and long-term strategy, Kane plays the emotional angles. He knows how to use charm, how to manipulate sympathy, and how to strike when least expected. Insiders suggest Kane could form his own alliances, perhaps with those Victor and Jack underestimate, to mount a counteroffensive that could blindside both titans. The emotional layer to this drama cannot be ignored. For Lily, Kane's refusal to step back will reopen old wounds, as she struggles with whether she still believes in the man who once broke her trust. Jill, never one to shy away from a gamble, might encourage Kane's boldness, seeing in him the fire she once admired. Even Devin and Billy could be dragged into the ripple effects, their loyalties tested as Kane positions himself not just as a rival, but as a legitimate contender. Kane's message is clear. He will not be erased, and he will not allow Victor and Jack to decide the future of Genoa City without him. The young and the restless thrives on a collision of personal and professional warfare, and this storyline has all the makings of an unforgettable saga. Imagine the boardrooms filled with fiery speeches, unexpected betrayals, and tense silences where one wrong move could spell disaster. Picture Victor, always 3 steps ahead, try and predict Jack's counterplays, while Jack secretly wonders if Victor's pride will cost him everything. Add Kane into the mix, a man with nothing left to lose, and suddenly the board is no longer stable. Every move becomes a gamble, every alliance a risk, every whispered secret a potential dagger in the back. But will Victor and Jack's alliance hold? History suggests that their truce is fragile at best. They have betrayed each other countless times before, and trust is not something either man gives freely. Spoilers suggest that even as they work side by side, both are plotting their own endgame. Victor may see Jack as a temporary pawn, while Jack may hope to outlast Victor's iron grip once the dust settles. Their alliance may win the battle against their mutual enemy, but the war between them is never truly over. And when the threat is neutralized, one can only imagine the explosion that will follow when they turn on each other again. Meanwhile, Kane's resilience will become a central theme. The man who once stumbled into scandal after scandal is no longer willing to play the role of fallen hero. He wants redemption, but he also wants recognition. By refusing to back down, he will force both Victor and Jack to take him seriously, whether they want to or not. And in the unpredictable world of Genoa City, underdogs often find a way to seize the spotlight when the giants are too busy fighting each other. Kane's reemergence may very well become the X factor in a storyline that promises shockwaves across families, companies, and relationships. As fans prepare for this explosive arc, speculation runs wild. Will Victor and Jack truly succeed in joining forces? Or will their egos implode before the mission is complete? Can Kane rise from the ashes and reclaim a position of influence? Or will he be crushed once again by those who underestimate him? And perhaps most intriguingly, which alliances will fracture as these three men battle for dominance in a city where loyalty is as fleeting as power itself? One thing is certain. The Young and the Restless is setting the stage for a power struggle unlike any other. Victor and Jack may believe they are writing the script for Genoa City's future, but Kane Ashby is ready to take the pen and rewrite the ending. The battle lines are drawn, the tension is building, and fans better buckle up. Because when titans clash and underdogs refuse to stay down, the fallout will leave no one untouched. Victor Newman and Jack Abbott's alliance might be front-page news in Genoa City, but behind the glossy headlines lies a web of fear, resentment, and vulnerability that neither man wants exposed. For Victor, this partnership is as much about control as it is about survival. He has weathered countless storms, corporate raids, hostile takeovers, betrayals from his own children, and every time he has emerged with his empire intact. But the reality is, age and legacy weigh on him now. The empire he fought so ruthlessly to build must outlast him, and that thought alone forces him to consider alliances he never would have entertained in his prime. Joining forces with Jack Abbott is humiliating, but Victor calculates that a short-term compromise is worth the long-term protection of Newman Enterprises. Yet, in his mind, this truce has a timer ticking down. Jack Abbott's perspective is equally layered. While Victor thinks in terms of legacy and dynasty, Jack's motivations are far more personal. Jabot is not just a business. It is the last living tie to his father, John Abbott. To lose it would mean losing a piece of himself. And Jack refuses to let that happen. The threat of an outside firm dismantling Jabot is an existential crisis. Aligning with Victor, a man who once tried to annihilate his company and humiliate him at every turn, is a bitter pill to swallow. But Jack knows that sometimes the enemy of your enemy is your best weapon. Still, Jack harbors doubts. He knows Victor is a master manipulator. If this alliance buys time, Jack intends to use every second of it to strengthen Jabot's defenses, ensuring that if or when Victor turns on him, he won't be caught unprepared. Meanwhile, Kane Ashby is like a storm gathering on the horizon. For years, he was a man who oscillated between hero and pariah, husband and betrayer, executive and exile. His marriage to Lily was once the centerpiece of his redemption arc, the love story that kept him grounded despite his mistakes. But choices, lies, and circumstances tore them apart, leaving Kane both humbled and haunted. Now, Kane has decided it is time to reclaim not just his dignity, but his power. He has been dismissed by too many people for too long, and watching Victor and Jack circle the battlefield reignites his hunger to be part of the fight. This is not about revenge. It is about relevance. Kane wants to prove that he is more than his past missteps, and he's willing to take risks that others might shy away from. Spoilers tease that Kane's opening move may come in the form of an unexpected alliance of his own. Whispers suggest that he could seek out Jill Abbott, appealing to her bold instincts and reminding her of times when she herself was underestimated. Jill has always loved a comeback story, and Kane knows she has the resources and influence to give him the boost he needs. But Kane is also willing to gamble elsewhere. What if he approaches someone inside Newman Enterprises? Perhaps Adam or even Victoria, playing on their complicated relationships with Victor? A well-placed partnership could catapult Kane back into the corporate spotlight, and that is exactly where he wants to be. The personal fallout of these shifting alliances cannot be ignored. Lily Winters, already stretched thin by her own responsibilities, will be blindsided by Kane's determination to reinsert himself into Genoa City's high-stakes game. While part of her may sympathize with his desire to start fresh, another part of her will fear that his ambition will drag him back into the same destructive patterns. Devin Hamilton, protective of both Lily and Chancellor Winters, may see Kane's moves as a direct threat. Billy Abbott, ever unpredictable, could either support Kane's bid for redemption or exploit his vulnerability to further his own agenda. In Genoa City, no choice is made in isolation, and Kane's refusal to back down will ripple across family lines. Victor and Jack, for all their bravado, may not even realize how dangerous Kane's resurgence could be. They are too focused on the external threat, strategizing late into the night, trading barbs even as they trade ideas. Victor leans into his instinct to dominate, while Jack insists on collaboration. Their differing styles create sparks, sometimes productive, sometimes destructive, and in those moments of distraction, Kane is free to maneuver. By the time Victor and Jack notice his presence, Kane may already position himself as a formidable opponent, with connections and leverage neither man anticipated. The storyline is as much about identity as it is about business. Victor wants to remain the indomitable patriarch, the man who defines Genoa City. Jack wants to preserve his family's legacy and prove that Abbott resilience cannot be broken. Kane wants to rise from the ashes, refusing to be remembered as a footnote in someone else's story. Together, their paths are converging into a showdown that promises betrayal, redemption, and seismic shifts in power. For fans, this is a perfect storm. Imagine the confrontations. Victor growling his warnings across a polished conference table, Jack delivering one of his impassioned monologues about integrity, and Kane stepping into a room with a quiet but defiant declaration. He will not be counted out. The clash of personalities, the weight of history, and the unpredictability of the future ensure that every scene will be dripping with tension. Spoilers promise that the weeks ahead will be filled with boardroom drama, family feuds, and shocking betrayals that will keep Genoa City reeling. And at the heart of it all lies one simple truth. In a city where power is everything, no one can afford to underestimate the underdog. Kane Ashby may not have the wealth of Victor Newman or the legacy of Jack Abbott, but what he has is hunger. And hunger, in the world of the young and the restless, can be the most dangerous weapon of all. Victor Newman and Jack Abbott should get together. The world of Genoa City has always thrived on rivalries, and none has been as enduring, electrifying, and unforgettable as a feud between Victor Newman and Jack Abbott. For decades, these two titans have waged war across boardrooms, family dinner tables, and the very soul of their city. Their clash is shaping not only their personal destinies, but also the very fabric of the young and the restless itself. Yet as fans look at the changing tides of storylines, whispers are growing louder that perhaps the time has come for Victor and Jack to put aside their differences, not just temporarily, but for good. Spoilers and speculation hint at the unthinkable. Victor Newman and Jack Abbott should finally get together, creating an alliance that could redefine the show for a new generation while honoring the rich history that brought them here. To imagine Victor and Jack together is to imagine a world where fire and ice collide. Victor, the iron-willed patriarch of Newman Enterprises, has always commanded respect and fear in equal measure. His life has been built on control, power, and a refusal to ever appear weak. Jack, on the other hand, embodies resilience and passion, driven by a desire to honor his father's legacy through Jabot and prove to the world that Abbott's strength can stand against Newman dominance. For years, these differences have fueled some of the show's most iconic battles. But what if, instead of fueling hatred, those differences became the foundation of something extraordinary? Fans already had a taste of what such a partnership could look like when circumstances forced them to work side by side against a mutual enemy. It was tense, it was awkward, but it was also undeniably thrilling. For once, Victor's cunning strategies and Jack's relentless determination were not aimed at each other, but channeled into a common goal. The results were electrifying, sparking fan discussions about what might happen if they truly embraced the idea of joining forces. Could they build a powerhouse capable of defending Genoa City from outside threats while stabilizing their own empires? Could their shared vision, however begrudging, lead to a legacy neither could achieve alone? Of course, their history is anything but simple. These men have betrayed, humiliated, and undercut one another for decades. Victor once tried to destroy Jack's company, while Jack has waged war against Newman family interests with every weapon at his disposal. They've stolen business deals, romantic partners, and even moments of happiness out of sheer spite. The idea of them reconciling is almost too wild to imagine, yet soap operas thrive on reinvention. And the biggest payoff often comes from storylines that challenge characters in ways no one thought possible. For Victor and Jack, that challenge could be learning to trust, not fully, not blindly, but enough to build something greater than themselves. On a deeper level, the possibility of Victor and Jack getting together represents something symbolic. It is about moving beyond cycles of vengeance and proving that growth is still possible, even for the most stubborn of men. Victor, who has always prided himself on protecting his family, might finally realize that working with Jack could strengthen not only Newman Enterprises, but also the stability of Genoa City itself. Jack, who has often been cast as the underdog despite his strength, could find validation in standing shoulder to shoulder with his greatest rival, no longer defined by opposition, but by partnership. Together, they could become a force that inspires respect across generations. The impact of such a partnership would be seismic. Imagine the ripple effects. Their families forced to adapt to this shocking new reality. Newman children like Victoria and Adam having to accept Jack as more than just an adversary, while Abbott loyalists like Ashley and Billy struggle with the idea of Jack working alongside the man who once tormented their family. The drama would be endless, not in Victor and Jack tearing each other down, but in watching their families adjust to the unimaginable. And in true soap fashion, even if they unite, the question of trust would always loom, keeping fans on the edge of their seats. For Kane Ashby, Devin Hamilton, Lily Winters, and Jill Abbott, the new alliance would completely reshape the corporate chessboard. Kane's determination to rise again would face even steeper odds if Victor and Jack formed a united front. Jill would have to calculate whether Chancellor Winters could compete or whether it was smarter to align herself with the new power duo. Billy, always torn between his Abbott loyalty and his restless ambition, might even consider carving out his own independent empire to avoid being overshadowed by the combined strength of Victor and Jack. The ripple effects would spread far beyond two men shaking hands. They would change every family dynamic in Genoa City. For viewers, the appeal of Victor and Jack getting together lies in the thrill of the unexpected. After decades of watching them fight, betray, and despise each other, the ultimate shock value comes not from another round of the same feud, but from seeing them forge a path no one ever thought possible. Their partnership would not erase their history. It would build upon it, layering decades of grudges into a fragile alliance that could crack at any moment. Every boardroom scene would carry the weight of suspicion, every shared victory the tension of looming betrayal. And yet, beneath it all, there would be the possibility of something greater. Mutual respect, hard-earned and grudging, but real. As soap storytelling evolves, so too must its characters. Victor and Jack are icons, but even icons need new arcs to keep them compelling. By bringing them together, the writers would not only honor their legacies, but also push them into uncharted territory. Viewers would see new dimensions of both men. Victor learning the limits of control, Jack learning the power of compromise. It would be a storyline that blends nostalgia with innovation, ensuring that the feud that defined decades does not fade into repetition, but transforms into something bold and unexpected. Ultimately, the question is not whether Victor Newman and Jack Abbott can get together. It is whether they should. And the answer, for fans craving drama, reinvention, and shockwaves through Genoa City, is a resounding yes. Their alliance would not erase the past, but redefine the future, creating storylines that honor everything they've been while exploring everything they could become. Two titans, one alliance, endless possibilities. In Genoa City, nothing could be more explosive or more unforgettable. The thought of Victor Newman and Jack Abbott joining forces would have been unthinkable in the early days of their rivalry. Their feud wasn't just about business. It was personal, raw, and laced with decades of bitterness. Longtime fans remember the explosive confrontations when Victor tried to strip Jabot from Jack's hands, using every ruthless tactic in his arsenal to remind Jack that the Newmans always win. Jack retaliated time and again, sometimes scoring victories that left Victor fuming, sometimes watching everything he worked for crumble beneath Victor's iron fist. Their history reads like a saga of betrayal, ambition, and stubborn pride, with each man convinced he alone deserved to stand at the top. Take, for example, the infamous Jabot versus Newman Enterprises wars. Jack's endless determination to keep his father's company alive often meant standing toe-to-toe with Victor in boardrooms packed with lawyers, bankers, and media. Victor thrived on intimidation, looming over Jack with a cold glare that could send seasoned executives running. But Jack, armed with passion and wit, never let Victor see him sweat. These moments became legendary not just because of the outcome, but because of the fire between them. The thought that those same fires could one day forge an alliance is enough to shake every corner of Genoa City. But the rivalry wasn't confined to boardrooms. Their families became collateral damage in this decades-long war. Victor and Jack fought over more than stocks and contracts. They fought over love, loyalty, and pride. Who could forget Victor's bitter clashes with Jack over Nikki Newman? For years, Jack tried to be the man who could love Nikki without control, only to find himself overshadowed by Victor's magnetic hold on her heart. Even when Nikki was married to Jack, her soul was still tied to Victor, a fact that drove Jack to the edge of despair. Meanwhile, Victor never forgave Jack for daring to think he could replace him in Nikki's life. That wound never fully healed, even as decades rolled on. And then there was Phyllis Summers, another connection that intertwined their fates. Jack's great love affair with Phyllis often became a thorn in Victor's side, particularly when Phyllis challenged Victor's authority or chose to side with Jack in battles that cut deep. Their personal entanglements blurred the lines between business and family until their rivalry was less about corporations and more about identity. To this day, Jack and Victor cannot sit in the same room without the ghosts of Nikki and Phyllis lingering between them. If they were ever to join forces, those ghosts would have to be confronted, adding another explosive layer to their alliance. So why now? Why should Victor and Jack get together when the weight of their past seems impossible to overcome? The answer lies in the present landscape of Genoa City. The city itself has changed. Younger generations, Adam Newman, Victoria Newman, Kyle Abbott, Billy Abbott, are all playing their own high-stakes games, eager to step out from the shadows of their fathers. New corporations, rival investors, and unpredictable players like Audra Charles and Claire Grace are rewriting the rules of power in Genoa City. The world that Victor and Jack once dominated no longer bows at their feet. To survive, they must adapt. And adaptation may mean the unthinkable, trusting each other enough to build a shield against outside threats. Imagine the shockwaves if Victor and Jack announced their partnership. The press in Genoa City would explode with headlines. Newman and Abbott, rivals no more, enemies become allies in shocking business merger. For shareholders, the news would inspire both excitement and fear. For family members, it would ignite chaos. Victoria Newman, fiercely protective of Newman Enterprises, would see this as a betrayal of everything her father once stood for. Adam Newman, long skeptical of Victor's choices, might actually support the move, seeing in Jack a balance that could neutralize Victor's heavy hand. Meanwhile, Ashley Abbott would see with disbelief, refusing to trust any alliance with Victor after everything he's done to her family. Billy Abbott, ever the wild card, could turn this into an opportunity, perhaps push him to become the voice of dissent against both men. The potential storylines are endless. Family dinners will be fraught with tension, boardroom meetings filled with suspicion, and every interaction between Victor and Jack would carry the weight of decades of history. Their partnership would not be smooth sailing. Victor's need for control would clash constantly with Jack's insistence on respect and equality. They would argue, yell, and storm out of meetings, only to realize that together they're far more powerful than apart. For the first time, their rivalry would not weaken them. It would sharpen them, forcing each man to rise to the best version of himself. And then there is Kane Ashby. Spoilers suggest that Kane will refuse to let Victor and Jack dominate the landscape without a fight. For Kane, the rise of the Newman-Abbott partnership would feel like the door slamming shut on his chances for redemption. But Kane is nothing if not resilient. His determination to claw his way back into power could turn him into the perfect foil, the underdog who forces Victor and Jack to stay on their toes. Kane may never have been a titan like Victor or Jack, but his scrappy ambition could make him a wild card in this high-stakes game. If Victor and Jack do unite, they may find themselves facing not only external threats, but also an emboldened Kane, ready to strike from the shadows. For fans, the emotional resonance of Victor and Jack getting together cannot be overstated. These are not just characters. They are institutions. Their rivalry has been the backbone of the young and the restless for decades, and to see them put aside their animosity would be both shocking and deeply satisfying. It would represent growth, maturity, and a willingness to evolve. It would also create opportunities for brand new conflicts, not based on the past but on the future. What happens when the unstoppable force and the immovable object finally stand on the same side? What happens when Victor's iron will meet Jack's relentless heart? Not as enemies, but as allies. The result would be nothing short of explosive. Would you like me to push this even further by weaving in long emotional flashbacks, Nikki, Phyllis, Ashley, Billy, and create a sprawling saga that builds toward the 9,000-word epic you're asking for? That way, we'll have the big news tone but with the depth of a serialized feature piece. You said, Kane Ashby's heart can be changed. Help me write big news, maximum 9,000 words, no numbering, no space. ChatGPT said, here's the beginning of your big news draft, written in the sweeping dramatic style you like, with room to expand toward the full 9,000 words. Kane Ashby's heart can be changed. In Genoa City, no one's past is ever truly forgotten, but redemption has always been possible for those brave enough to chase it. Kane Ashby, a man whose journey has taken him from hopeful beginnings to scandal and heartbreak, stands once again at the crossroads of change. For years, Kane has been defined by his mistakes, his secrets, and the broken trust that tore apart his marriage to Lily Winters and left his reputation in tatters. Yet in true soap opera fashion, the heart is never beyond repair, and spoilers suggest that Kane's story is far from over. In fact, whispers hint a shocking new chapter where Kane's heart may finally be changed by love, forgiveness, and the chance to rebuild a life he once thought was lost. Kane's history is complicated, layered with deception, second chances, and painful consequences. When he first arrived in Genoa City, he was a man shrouded in mystery, a charming outsider who quickly captured attention. He found love with Lily, and for a time, their romance became one of the most beloved stories on The Young and the Restless. They built a family, weathered storms, and inspired fans with their resilience. But as with so many love stories in Genoa City, secrets unraveled the dream, lies about his identity, betrayals both real and perceived, and a series of choices made in desperation left Kane standing in the ruins of what he had once built. Yet Kane has always been more than his mistakes. He has shown loyalty, vulnerability, and a capacity for love that cannot be ignored. Spoilers tease that Kane may be preparing to show Genoa City, and Lily most of all, that he is capable of lasting change. While their marriage may be behind them, the bond they share will always remain. Lily has seen the good in Kane before, and though she has every reason to guard her heart, part of her knows that Kane's journey is not yet complete. The possibility that his heart can be changed opens a door to hope, not just for Lily, but for Kane himself. The heart of this storyline lies in redemption. Can a man who has fallen so far truly rise again? Kane believes he can. His determination is fueled not only by his desire to be respected, but also by his longing to prove to his children that he can be the father they deserve. In his darkest moments, Kane has been haunted by the fear that his children will remember him only for his failures. But Kane's heart could rewrite that story, giving him a father they can be proud of, one who embodies strength, humility, and integrity. Of course, change in Genoa City never comes easily. Kane's journey will be tested at every turn. Jill Abbott, who has always been both supporter and critic, will watch closely to see if his actions match his words. Devin Hamilton, protective of his sister Lily, may doubt Kane's sincerity and challenge him to prove his worth. Billy Abbott, ever the skeptic, might mock Kane's attempt at redemption, while others may try to pull him back into old patterns. In soap operas, redemption is never straightforward. It is a battlefield where every choice matters, every temptation lingers, and every misstep can undo months of progress. Yet what makes Cain's story so compelling is his resilience. He has stumbled, he has fallen, but he has never given up entirely. Even when the world turned against him, Cain found ways to keep moving forward, clinging to the hope that tomorrow could be different. This determination may now be the key to changing his heart. Spoilers suggest that Cain will be faced with moments of truth, situations where the easy way out would mean repeating old mistakes, but the harder choice could prove that he has truly grown. Each test will bring him closer to the man he wants to be, a man no longer defined by lies or regret, but by integrity and love. Could romance play a role in Cain's transformation? It wouldn't be Genoa City without love stirring the pot. Some speculate that Cain could find himself drawn back toward Lily, not as a husband, but as a co-parent who rediscovers the trust and affection they once shared. Others wonder if a new love interest could be the catalyst for his change, someone who sees him not for who he was, but for who he is becoming. Either way, love will undoubtedly be part of the journey, because in Genoa City, the heart is both the greatest weakness and the greatest strength. Cain Ashby's story has always been about more than business deals or rivalries. It has been about a man trying to find his place in a world that often seemed determined to push him out. Now, as whispers grow louder that his heart can be changed, fans are preparing for a storyline that blends redemption, family, and the possibility of a brighter future. The road ahead will not be easy, but for Cain, it is one worth traveling. His heart may not be perfect, but it is beating with hope, and in Genoa City, that is enough to spark a comeback of epic proportions. The big question remains, will Genoa City believe in Cain Ashby again? For some, his past is too heavy to ignore. For others, his determination will be proof enough that he deserves another chance. And for Cain, this may be the most important battle of his life. Not against Victor Newman or Jack Abbott or any other corporate titan, but against the man he used to be. If he can win that battle, then truly, Cain Ashby's heart can be changed. Cain Ashby's heart can be changed is more than just a hopeful statement. It is the underlying truth behind his journey on the young and the restless. For years, Cain has been portrayed as a man torn between ambition, love, loyalty, and temptation, often finding himself at the center of dramatic storylines that test his strength and his resolve. But despite every misstep and betrayal, there remains a part of him that longs for redemption and for a second chance at love, family, and purpose. The question for fans isn't whether Cain is capable of change, but whether he is willing to accept that change, embrace it, and let it guide him into a brighter future. His character has always been written with deep complexity, a man whose good intentions often clash with impulsive choices that carry devastating consequences. This duality makes him one of the most human characters in Genoa City, because viewers see themselves in his flaws as much as in his hopes. When Cain loved, he loved with everything he had. His devotion to Lily Winters was undeniable even during their darkest moments. The chemistry they shared was rooted not just in passion, but in a shared vision of family, of creating a home filled with trust, laughter, and resilience. Every time Cain made a mistake, whether through deception or poor judgment, the guilt weighed heavily on him, and his attempt to repair the damage often came too late. Yet it is that guilt and self-awareness that remind audiences that Cain's heart is not lost to selfishness or malice. He is a man who feels, who regrets, and who longs to make amends. In the world of soap operas, redemption arcs are some of the most compelling storylines. They invite viewers to root for a character they may once have despised or doubted. Cain is primed for such an arc because his character has already endured so much loss. His struggles with honesty, his battles for Lily's trust, his role as a father, and his conflict with power players like Victor Newman and Jack Abbott have all tested his moral compass. Through those trials, his heart has never completely hardened. Instead, it carries scars that make him more vulnerable, more relatable, and more open to the possibility of transformation. A turning point for Cain could come to his children, who represent the purest part of his legacy. Being a father has always grounded him, reminding him of the stakes of his actions and the importance of leading by example. If Cain wants to truly change his heart, he must prioritize their well-being over his ego, ambitions, or fleeting desires. His children could be the catalyst that inspires him to become the man he has always wanted to be, the man Lily once believed in, the man his kids still need. Another potential pathway for change lies in forgiveness. Cain has hurt people he loves, but he has also been hurt deeply himself. Carrying that pain has often driven him into rash decisions. Letting go of resentment and forgiving not only others but himself could allow Cain to rebuild his heart on a foundation of compassion rather than regret. Genoa City is a place where grudges thrive, but if Cain takes a higher road, he could stand out as a beacon of growth. What's fascinating about Cain's story is how it could intertwine with the power struggles of other central figures. Imagine Cain standing firm in his values as Victor and Jack attempt to manipulate him into their corporate battles. If Cain resists falling into old traps of deceit and ambition, his heart could be reshaped into something unshakable, a man who can no longer be controlled by greed or fear. That kind of transformation wouldn't just change Cain's life, it would change the way others see him. Characters like Lily, who may have lost faith in him, could start to recognize a genuine shift in his soul that could open the door to reconciliation, not necessarily romantic at first, but rooted in mutual respect and trust. Love might follow, but only if Cain truly proves through actions that his heart is no longer divided. The journey toward change is never easy, and for Cain, it would require constant battles with temptation. Old habits and old rivals would test his resolve, but each time he resisted falling back into destructive cycles, his heart would strengthen. Redemption in the young and the restless isn't about a grand gesture. It's about steady, painful, consistent choices that build a new future. Cain's heart could be changed because he is not incapable of love, loyalty, or integrity. He has simply allowed fear and ambition to cloud his better nature. By facing those inner demons and choosing differently, Cain can transform not just himself, but his relationships with everyone around him. Fans are eager for that kind of story because it gives hope. It shows that even when someone has stumbled time and time again, they are not beyond saving. Cain Ashby may not be perfect, but perfection was never the point. His story has always been about the struggle, the fall, and the chance to rise again. His heart, though bruised, can heal, and when it does, it can become stronger and more loving than ever before.